श्रीवत्सचिह्नमिश्रेभ्यो नममुक्तिं मधीमहे यदुक्तयस्त्रयीकण्ठी यान्त्रमङ्गलसूत्रताम्. श्रीवत्साङ्कमिश्र, श्रीवत्सचिह्नमिश्र, श्रीवत्साङ्क, कूरत्ताळ्वान्, कुरेश. Srivatsanka, the illustrious disciple of Swami Ramanuja, is popularly called Kuresha. Kurattalvan, Kuresha, as he hails from the village of Kuram near Kanchipuram in Dakshina Bharata. Srivatsanka Kuresha is a supreme example for an ideal Sishya. He is the supreme example for one who overcame Trivida Madha, threefold intoxications. Kulamada, Dhanamada, Vidyamada. The threefold intoxications. Intoxication of pride due to one's birth in a noble family. Kulamada. Intoxication of pride due to one's inherited wealth. Dhanamada. Intoxication of pride due to one's education, Vidyamada. In order to progress spiritually, we need to overcome this threefold intoxication. Detoxing the threefold intoxications is a prerequisite. And Kuresha demonstrates how one can become successful, truly successful in life by overcoming Trivida Madha. Kuresha not only acquired the knowledge of reality, he lived a life rooted in this knowledge of reality. A lotus flower is nurtured by the sun when it is in water. As long as the lotus is in water, it is nurtured by the sun. But the same sun dries it up the moment it lies on land. To be nurtured by the sun, a lotus flower needs to be in water. For a jiva in the life of samsara, the jiva needs the guidance, the ashraya of a sadacharya. Only then one can obtain the grace of Bhagavan and attain knowledge of reality. Kuresha, under the guidance of his acharya, Jagadacharya Swami Ramanuja, not only obtained knowledge from his acharya, but also later he went on to bring glory to his own acharya. One of the important characteristics of Sishya Lakshana, bringing glory to one's Sadacharya. Kuresha, therefore, is considered one amongst the principal disciples of Swami Ramanuja. When Swami Ramanuja decided to write his commentary on the Brahma Sutras, his Bhashya, he wanted a reference, and the only reference those days, more than 1,000 years back, available, the only copy of Bodhayana's Vritti Grantha, for Badarayana's Brahma Sutras, for Vedavyasa's Brahma Sutras, one of the most comprehensive, authentic vrittis was done by Bodhayana. And this Grantha was available only in Sharada Pitha in Kashmir. And therefore, in order to obtain the Grantha, Ramanuja, along with Kuresha and other disciples, walked all the way from Srirangam all the way to Sharada Pitha in Kashmir. And eventually, the librarian there agreed to part with the Grantha, Bodhayana Vritti Grantha, to Ramanuja in spite of opposition coming from several others. Having obtained the Grantha, Ramanuja, along with Kuresha and other disciples, started to travel back down south. On the way, they spent overnight resting in a forest. The next day, some of those who opposed sharing this Grantha with Ramanuja traveled all the way, caught up with them, and forcibly took the Grantha back to Sharada Pitha. Ramanuja was deeply concerned for having lost a valuable resource for his commentary on the Brahma Sutras. As Swami Ramanuja was deeply pondering over the next steps, his illustrious disciple Kuresha humbly approached him and declared, "Swami, I managed to study the entire Grantha overnight, and with your Kripa, I managed to also memorize the entire Grantha word by word, and therefore there is no need for concern for having lost the copy of the Grantha." His Acharya Pratipatti transformed into a magical skill that enabled him to memorize the entire work of Bodhayana overnight. And eventually, Kuresha's memory became the resource for Ramanuja when he wrote his Brahma Sutra Bhashyas, which eventually is celebrated as Sri Bhashya. Such is the glory of the illustrious Kuresha. We can continue to celebrate Kuresha's glories. We have all assembled together to relish one of his works. Kuresha has composed 5 important works, Pancha stavam. Shrivatsachinhamishrebhyo namavuktim adhimahe. Yaduktayastrayi kante yanti mangala sutratham. Shrivatsankhas, Shri Suktis, his divine utterances, it seems, have attained an exalted state of a divine adornment, a Mangala Sutra around the neck of Vedamata. His works, popularly celebrated as Pancha stava, Shri stava, Vaikuntha stava, Sundarabahu stava, Atimānuṣa stavam, Varadaraja stavam. 5 stava. Stava means stotra, a body of praises, and prayers. His Panchastava is a treasury of Bhagavad Gunanubhava, and they not only embellish the beauty of Vedamata, they also become a raksha to Vedamata. Atimānuṣa stava is one of the Panchastavas. In Atimānuṣa stava, Kuresha celebrates the Atimānuṣa cheshtitas, the Atimānuṣa lilas of Bhagavan. Kuresha begins Atimānuṣa stavam with a summary on the entire stava. There are 61 shlokas in Atimānuṣa stavam. Kuresha celebrates the avatars of Bhagavan. He primarily celebrates the two mukhya avatars, Rama avatara and Krishna avatara. A bulk of the shlokas are devoted to celebrate these two avatars. But he also celebrates other avatars. He also celebrates the Vyuha avatars. And he starts off by celebrating the Archa of Bhagavan. Atimānuṣa shīlavrittaveshaihi ativrittamara vikrama pratapaihi atilangita sarvaloka samyam varaye vaishnava vaibhavavataram. Kuresha begins his stavam on a grand note. Atimānuṣa shīlavrittaveshaihi ativrittamara vikrama pratapaihi atilangita sarvaloka samyam varaye vaishnava vaibhavavataram. This work is about celebrating Bhagavan Vishnu's Vibhava-avataras, the glories of Vibhava-avataras. The stava celebrates Bhagavan's Atimānuṣa conduct and nature, his conduct and nature during his avataras. His lilas are suprahuman, supremely extraordinary and extraordinarily supreme. Krishna in the Gita declares, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tatpataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. Krishna gives a formula for attaining moksha. He says, Hey Arjuna, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tatpataha. One who understands my avatara rahasya. The secret to attaining moksha is to understand, to know Bhagavan's avatara rahasya. And knowing his avatara rahasya, relish and cherish and celebrate Bhagavan's glorious avataras. And this is the ways and means to attain moksha and attain Bhagavan's lotus feet. And Atimānuṣa stavam provides us a framework to relish Bhagavan's cheshtitas, understand his avatara rahasyas. One of existence's mysteries, interestingly, is that the Supreme who is beyond space and time, appears within the limits of the space and time. The one who is beyond space and time appears within the very limits of space and time. It is not easy to resolve this mystery. Love alone can resolve this mystery because love alone creates this mystery. It is Bhagavan's boundless love for all of us that inspires him to descend to this material world. The infinite enters the finite to infinitize the finite. He takes repeated births to save us from taking rebirth. His avataras are for the purpose of protecting the good, reforming the bad, establishing order and harmony in society, making himself accessible to one and all, inspiring us to lead our lives rooted in dharma. Kuresha declares, Hey Bhagavan, Your Shila and your Vritta during your avatars are Atimānuṣa. Atimānuṣa Shila Vritta Veshaihi. Shila Vritta Vesha. Atimānuṣa Shila. Shila is character. Vritta is conduct. Vesha is Rupa. Bhagavan's Shila is Atimānuṣa. Atimānuṣa Shila. Suprahuman character. It is important to understand that when Bhagavan does certain things, it is not that we humans cannot do all of that. It is just that most often we do not. We should recognize the difference between cannot and do not. During Rama Avatara, Rama approaches Vishwamitra and says, Imausva munisardhula kinkarau samupastitau. The prince of Ayodhya, the future Chakravarthy of Ayodhya, son of Dasharatha Chakravarthy, he approaches a sage and submits, surrenders to him. He says, Imausva munishardhula, hey munishardhula, tiger amongst sages. Kinkarau samapastitau, Lakshmana and I are your kinkaras, your servants. Rama did not have any inhibitions to introduce himself to the illustrious Vishwamitra as his kinkara. Humility, utmost humility. This is Atimānuṣa Shila. Why it is Atimānuṣa? Because we human beings know humility is a virtue, but we can do, but we don't. Difference between can and don't. That is why it is Atimānuṣa. Difficult for us to practice that virtue. Bhagavan effortlessly demonstrates how to practice humility. Ramo dvirnabhir bhashate. Rama does not speak with two tongues. Apyaham jivitam jahyam tvam va sitesha lakshmanam. Nahi pratignyam samshrutya brahmanebhyo viseshataha. Rama tells Sita, hey Site, Apyaham jivitam jahyam tvam va sitesha lakshmanam. I can live without my very life, without you, hey Site, without Lakshmana. But I cannot live by breaking the promise, the pratignya that I made to the sages of Dandakaranya that I shall protect them. Keeping up his promises, sticking to his vrata, principled in executing a pledge that is made. Atimānuṣa Shila. Atimānuṣa Shila Vritta. Atimānuṣa Vritta. Suprahuman conduct. In all the avatars, Bhagavan's activities are all suprahuman, supremely extraordinary, extraordinarily supreme. Kalinga Mardhana, Setu Bandhana, Jatayu Moksha Pradana, Putana Shakatasura Arishta Kamsa Shishupala Bhanjana. All of these are Atimānuṣa Vritta. Atimānuṣa Shila. Atimānuṣa Vritta. Atimānuṣa Vesha. Atimānuṣa Vesha. Bhagavan's beauty, his rupa, is so very magnetic. His beauty never diminishes. Infinite beauty all the time. It's the source of all beauty that we can ever enjoy. Rupam audarya gunaihi pumsam drishtichittapaharinam, Vishwamitra writes. Describing Rama's Divya Mangala Vigraha, Vishwamitra says, Rupam audarya gunaihi pumsam drishtichittapaharinam. Rama's beauty is so very magnetic that it attracts and steals all our indriyas. And we get hooked on like iron pieces to a magnet. Such is Rama's mesmerizing, magnetic beauty. If Rama, through his beauty, steals everyone's hearts and minds, Krishna does not need to steal. Everyone goes and submits their hearts and minds to the Bhuvana Sundara. Shutva gunan Bhuvana Sundara Shinvatam te Nirvishya Karana Vivarair Haratongatapam Rupam Drisham Drishimatam Akilathalabam Tvayyachuta Avishati Chittam Apatratam Mehe Bhuvana Sundara Tvayyachuta Chittam Apatratam Me, Rukmini says. Hey Bhuvana Sundara, I have shamelessly fixed my mind on you. There is no shame to seek Krishna. Only when we seek worldly things, we need to be shameless. But the shameless mind that is seeking everything else and not Krishna, when it gets fixed, then there is no shame at all. There is no shame in asking for more and more and more of Krishna. The Bhuvana Sundara. Rukmini says, your beautiful form alone is enough to fulfill every desire that anyone can ever have. And therefore, I surrender, I submit my mind, my very self to you, hey Krishna. Atimānuṣa stavam Ativrittamara vikrama pratapaihi Atilangita sarvaloka samyam. Bhagavan is matchless. He has no one equal to him. He is matchless, he is peerless, he is blemishless, he is timeless, he is changeless. And by knowing him and knowing his Swarupa and Rupa, Guna, Vibhuti and Aishwaryam, we become truly desireless and fearless. Kuresha says, hey Bhagavan, there is no one who can match your cheshtitas in all the lokas. And even when you take a human-like form, even when you assume a human-like form, you still remain blemishless. You still remain peerless and matchless. Many a times, we tend to use our finite filters to understand the infinite potency of Bhagavan, and we miserably fail. It is very important for us to know that with our finite filters, we cannot understand the authentic nature of the Supreme. It is only through bhakti alone that we can know, realize and attain Him. And therefore, right at the beginning, Kuresha sets the stage in his Atimānuṣa stavam. He talks about the importance of celebrating all the Vibhava-avataras. But before he starts to celebrate the various avatars of Bhagavan, he starts glorifying his Archa. Bhagavan, as we know, has 5 forms, 5 principal modes. Para, Vyuha, Vibhava, Antaryami, Archa. In Atimānuṣa stavam, Kuresha celebrates all the 5 states, all the 5 modes of Bhagavan. Paravasudeva, Vaikunthanatha, Vyuha Vasudeva, Kshirabdhinatha. All the Vibhava avatars that Bhagavan takes from time to time. His being the Antaryami, is indwelling in each and every entity in the creation. And most importantly, his Archa form, which is easily accessible to one and all. Shreya kirantu kiranas charanaravinda nishyandamana makaranda rasaugadeshya tajjashute maduna utsa iti pradita mangalyaranga nalayasya parasya dhamna. Kuresha is relishing the glory of Sri Ranganatha. No, Rigveda proudly declares, Tadasya priyam abhibhato asyam naro yatra devayo madanti urukrumasya sahibandurittaha Vishno pade parame madhva utsaha. Vishno pade parame madhva utsaha. The Charanaaravindas of Bhagavan are the perennial source of the stream of nectar that keeps flowing all the time. Vishnoho pade parame madhva utsaha. The Rigvedas declare the glory of the Charanaravinda of Narayana. Here, Kuresha is echoing the same message of the Rigveda. Shreyah kirantu kiranash Charanaravinda. Nishyandamana makarandara saugadeshya. Tajjashruter madunavutsa iti pratitaha. Mangalyaranga nilayasya parasya dhamna. We have to visualize the glorious Rangavimana of Sri Ranga. That Rangavimana which came all the way down from Satyaloka, from Kshirabdi to Satyaloka, eventually to Bhuloka, which became the Ikshwaku Kuladhana. That glorious Rangavimana and Ranganatha majestically reclined on Adisesha under the Rangavimana. And Kuresha, looking at Ranganatha, is praying to him. And he says, hey, Ranganatha, the radiance, Shreyah kirantu kiranash Sharanaravinda, the radiance emanating from your divine lotus feet. May the radiance that emanates from your divine lotus feet, may it illuminate us. May that radiance energize us, empower us, enlighten us, kindle unbridled, boundless bhakti in us, so that we may realize your glories, so that we may stay immersed in your gunanubhava. Makaranda rasaugadeshya tajjashruter madunavutsa iti pratitaha. He says, may we get drenched in the downpour of nectar coming from your divine lotus feet. May we be flooded by the stream of honey, stream of nectar, eternally, perennially flowing from your divine lotus feet, and may we continue to be always immersed in Brahmananda, your Anubhava of your Kalyana Gunas. Thus, he starts off by praying to Ranganatha, to the Archamurti, and he then goes on to glorify the divine lotus feet of Ranganatha. We all know Bhagavan's divine lotus feet has a very, very special place in the Shastras. Across the Shastras, we see an attempt being made to capture the limitless glories of those divine lotus feet. The Kuresha here comes up with a scintillating verse which glorifies the divine lotus feet of Bhagavan. Vajrat vajankusha sudha kalashata patra pankeruhanka parikarma paritamantaha apada pankaja ushunkala deepramaulehi Shriranginaha charanayor yugamashrayamaha. Shriranginaha charanayor yugamashrayamaha. Hey Ranganatha, we take refuge. Charanayor yugamashrayamaha. We take refuge in your divine lotus feet. We seek shelter in your divine lotus feet. We seek shelter of your divine lotus feet, here Ranganatha. Shelter of those divine lotus feet whose divine souls, the soul being the bottom part of Bhagavan's lotus feet, which makes imprints, footprints when he walks. We take refuge of those divine lotus feet, the divine souls of which are embossed and decorated, adorned with sacred marks. Parikarma paritamantaha. Paramapurusha Lakshana, the distinguishing characteristics of the Supreme Being. one of the lakshanas is the divine marks on Bhagavan's, the soul of Bhagavan's lotus feet. What are those auspicious marks on Bhagavan's lotus feet? Kuresha lists some of them. Vajradvajankusha Sudha Kalashatapatra Pankeruha. Vajra, the thunderbolt. Dvaja, the flag of Garuda. Ankusha, the gourd, or the elephant gourd. Sudha Kalasha, the kalasha, the pot of nectar. Atapatra, umbrella. Pankeruha, the lotus flower. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we see the glorious description of Bhagavan's divine lotus feet and all the marks, the sacred marks that adorn the soles of Bhagavan's divine lotus feet. Apart from these, there are several other marks like Shankha and Chakra, Urdhvareka, bow, and so on. Here Kuresha has highlighted some of them. Vajra. We find the mark of Vajra on the sole of Bhagavan's divine lotus feet. The Vajra is the sign that indicates that one who contemplates on the divine lotus feet of Bhagavan, one who meditates, that meditation acts as a Vajra and smashes to pieces the mountain of karmic baggage that one carries. The Vajra, the sign of Vajra, also indicates that one who takes refuge of Bhagavan's lotus feet can reach an exalted state of Indra, who also incidentally wields Vajrayudha. So the mark of Vajra, the sign of Vajra, essentially guarantees Dharmartha Kama Moksha to those who take refuge of the divine lotus feet of Bhagavan. Vajra Dvaja. Kuresha then talks about the sign, the sacred sign of Dvaja adorning the lotus feet of Bhagavan. Dvaja is the flag of Garuda. This sign assures victory in life, assures total security, safety, protection, fearlessness, and guarantees protection all the time. Vajradvajankusha, Ankusha, a very interesting sign on Krishna's lotus feet. Ankusha. Ankusha means the gourd that is used by a mahout to control the elephant. It's a spiked rod which is used, the Ankusha is normally used to manage, control the elephant. The elephant is a very interesting animal. Most of the time, it is very gentle, very subtle, very highly skilled. An elephant can be very, very highly skilled. It is so skilled that on the one hand, it can effortlessly uproot a mango tree while sauntering in an orchard. And on the other hand, it can skillfully pluck a small peanut from the palm of a child. So very skillful, very gentle, very majestic all the time. But an untrained elephant and an untrained drunken elephant can be very, very dangerous. The mind can be like an untrained drunken elephant, overcome by Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Madamatsariyas. A drunken elephant can create a havoc, and an Ankusha is needed to control and to bring it back to senses. The mind needs to be charmed, the mind needs to be controlled, and the mind needs to be concentrated, and the mark of Ankusha on the soul of Bhagavan's divine lotus feet indicates that when the mind is hooked on to the lotus feet of Bhagavan, then the lotus feet acts like an Ankusha, controlling it, bringing it to a state of calm, charming it, controlling it, and eventually mastering it. Such is the importance of the sign of Ankusha. Sudha Kalasha. Vajradvajankusha Sudha Kalasha. Another interesting sign on the lotus feet of Bhagavan is Sudha Kalasha. Sudha Kalasha is a pot of nectar. This sign, this sacred sign, indicates that Bhagavan's lotus feet is the source of all nectar, unending nectar. We can keep partaking, consuming as much nectar as we want from it, unending flow of nectar. And it is for all, without any discrimination whatsoever. The pot of nectar also indicates that when one takes refuge of those divine lotus feet, all inauspiciousness are completely removed. The pot of nectar also indicates that it is in association with this divine mark that Ganga became purified. Trivikrama Sripada Tirtha became so very purified because of its association with Bhagavan's lotus feet and this divine mark of Sudha Kalasha. Also, the gopis of Vrindavana were so very attached to this very mark on Krishna's lotus feet, and it is the Sudha Kalasha, this pot of nectar, that extinguished their burning fire, their viraha tapa when they were separated from Krishna. Sudha Kalasha Atapatra. Atapatra is another sign, umbrella, the sign of umbrella. The divine sign of umbrella on the lotus feet of Bhagavan indicates that we have shelter. We can be always sheltered from incessant rains, not ordinary rains, incessant rains of material miseries. Bhagavan's divine lotus feet acts as an umbrella, providing us shelter from incessant rains of material miseries. Also, by taking refuge of the divine lotus feet of Bhagavan, one can reach an exalted state of a king, because kings are known to have umbrellas being carried on top of their heads. So by surrendering to Bhagavan's lotus feet, one can also attain immense prosperity and reach a state of a king. Such is the power of the sacred sign of the divine umbrella. Atapatra Pankeruha. Pankeruha is Pankaja, the divine lotus, which is a symbol of purity. Also, the mark of lotus on Bhagavan's divine feet, the lotus feet, this sign indicates that just like how the lotus flower needs water to be nurtured, the mind also needs bhakti. Dry jnana and vairagya alone are not enough. Without bhakti, there cannot be mukti. So therefore, the divine sign of lotus feet is an indicator that by taking refuge of Bhagavan's lotus feet, bhakti also blossoms in the mind of the one who does Sharanagati. Pankeruhanka parikarma paritamantaha. Parikarma paritamantaha. These divine lotus feet are adorned, decorated with these divine symbols, and it seems the whole of Vrajabhumi, we can see footprints of Krishna all over and marks of all these divine sacred marks. Vrindavana has become a transcendental land only because Sri Krishna walked all over, and with his footprints, the signs, all these divine signs are to be found even today. And the gopis of Vraja went into raptures when they could see these footprints of Krishna with these divine symbols, waiting for Krishna, the only means of extinguishing the burning fire, the Virahatapa in them is by taking solace in those footprints of Krishna. It seems when Akrura came all the way from Mathura to fetch Krishna and take him back to Mathura, he saw these divine footprints of Krishna and he realized how blessed he was, and he went into a state of an ecstatic trance, experiencing Krishna by just looking at those divine signs of Krishna's lotus feet. Parikarma paritamantaha apada pankaja vishunkala dipra maulehe. Kuresha says, a maulehe, you are a maulin. Who is a maulin? A maulin is one who wears a tall crown, a dazzling crown studded with brilliant gems. Apada pankaja vishunkala, boundless radiance. Now, Kuresha is enjoying the Divyamangala Vigraha of Sri Ranganatha. He is looking at the Divyamangala Vigraha all over and he says, Hey Maule, until now he was so very, he was concentrating on those divine lotus feet. Now he's slightly shifting his gaze and he's looking at the dazzling crown studded with those brilliant gems. He says, Apada pankaja vishunkala dipra maule. The radiance, the effulgence emanating from the crown because of all the gems is illuminating the entire Divyamangala Vigraha and reaching all the way to his Sripada. And he says, this radiance from your tall crown is illuminating your divine lotus feet. And he says, or should I say, it is the effulgence of your divine lotus feet that is actually adding luster to the dazzling crown. It's an interesting competition here. Is it the crown that is illuminating the divine lotus feet, or it is the innate effulgence, limitless effulgence of the divine lotus feet that is adding immense luster to the tall crown? It's a very healthy competition to have, and the benefit out of this competition only comes to us because we get to relish the glories of both. Sriranginaha charanayor yugamashrayamaha. We take refuge in those divine lotus feet. And then he continues to glorify the divine lotus feet in the next shloka. Srirangaraja charanau pranumoyoyoh kalu ekaha trivikrama vidau vasudham asesha. Now he is talking about, he is celebrating the glory of the divine lotus feet, and in the context of Trivikramavatara, Vamanavatara. Idam Vishnur Vichakrame Treda Nitate Padam Samudamasya Bhagum Sure Trinipada Vichakrame Atogo Ato Dharmani Dharayan Vishnur Gopaya Adabhyaha Ato Dharmani Dharayan. The Rigveda celebrates how, as Vamana, he established dharma, restored order, harmony in the universe. One moment he was Vamana, instantaneously transformed into a Trivikrama, measuring effortlessly all the lokas across Brahmanda. Now here Kuresha is eulogizing, praising those divine lotus feet. He says, Sri Rangaraja Charanau Pranumo. Sri Rangaraja Charanau Pranumo. I am praises my prayers to those divine lotus feet, to the divine Dvandva, Yayoh Kalu Ekaha, the one of those two, just the one, with one of those two divine feet, Trivikrama Vidhau Vasudham Asesha. Bhagavan, as Trivikrama, effortlessly measured the entirety of the Brahmanda. And he says, Yakramsta Sachala Kulamapi Viprakirna Stulavalagna Sikatamiva Nennathocham. He beautifully captures and graphically captures what transpired when Bhagavan's Sripada was actually traversing across the lokas. He says, Viprakirna Stulavalagna. Viprakirna Stulavalagna. Viprakirna Stulavalagna. Big rocks, when they are broken into small pieces, like becoming like grains of sand. Sachala Kulamapi, the mighty mountains on Bhuloka, it seems, seemed like grains of sand that stuck to his divine lotus feet. Sekatamiva. When Bhagavan was measuring all the lokas and he was traversing, he was measuring the entirety of Bhuloka, all Meru, Himalaya, Vindhyas, all of them were like grains of sand that were sticking to his divine lotus feet. And he says, Nirnatocham, without any differentiation between low and high, inferior and superior, trivial and lofty, Bhagavan blessed every entity across the entire Brahmanda. No, this is the beauty of Trivikrama Avatara. He blessed equally, without any discrimination, every entity, as his Tripada traversed across all the lokas of Brahmanda. Everyone had equal opportunity to be blessed, to be in association with that Sripada. And therefore, Kuresha says, what a Atimānuṣa cheshtita of the divine lotus feet. Here, this is not the glorification of Vamanavatara. There are other shlokas where he will glorify Vamanavatara. Here specifically he is glorifying, celebrating, relishing the divine lotus feet of Bhagavan that measured and the three lokas, and in the process, without any discrimination, blessed each and every entity across the Brahmanda. And then Kuresha then goes on to celebrate Vyuhavataras. He celebrates Archa, then he celebrates the divine lotus feet. Before moving on to Vibhavataras, he celebrates the Vyuhavataras. Jnanam balam vipulamishana virya shakti tejamsicha triyuga bhuyam upagatani purnani shaccha harigrihya bhavams chaturdha bhaktam janam tvam anujagrahita anuragat. Anudachagra hitanuragat. Hey Bhagavan, Jnanam balam vipulamishana virya shakti tejam. He now is talking about the 6 principal gunas of Bhagavan. Paramatma, Parabrahman, Narayana is also celebrated as Bhagavan. Bhaga means treasure. Bhagavan, one who is endowed with the treasury of 6 immeasurable principal gunas. These 6 immeasurable gunas being Jnana, Bala, Virya, Shakti, Tejas. Jnana, Bala, Virya, Shakti, Tejas. Now, he is talking about how with these 6 principal Kalyana gunas, Bhagavan then using his will with his Sankalpa, he then creates 3 groups and 4 forms. Tejamsicha triyuga bhuyam upagatani purnani shakcha parigrihya bhavams chaturdha. He is talking about how he, with his Sankalpa, creates 4 emanations, 4 vyuhas for carrying out specific cosmic functions. Bhagavan's 6 principal gunas there are 6 purposes. Each guna has a principal purpose. Jnana stands for his omniscience, his ability to know everything at all times. He is Sarvadrik. He is Sarvajnaha. He is Sarvadrishta. Jnana. Balam is his power to support everything at all the time. Jnanam, Balam, Vipulamisha, Virya. Virya is his ability to Jnana Shakti Balam Aishwarya. Aishwarya is on the third guna is Aishwarya. Aishwarya is his ability, the power to control and own everything that he creates. Virya, his ability to remain changeless at all the time. Shakti is his ability to energize, his ability to execute things that are unimaginable, his aghatita ghatana samarthya. Tejas. Tejas is effulgence, his luster, which is matchless. And at the same time, also, Tejas indicates his ability to do everything independently. To carry out his functions, he is not dependent on anybody or anything else. Now, Kuresha says, Jnana balam vipulam ishana virya shakti tejamscha triyuga bhuyam upagatani purnani shatcha parigrihya bhavams chaturdha. Using your sankalpa, you build for these 6 principal gunas to be grouped into 3 pairs and 4 forms, 4 vyuhas. The 4 vyuha forms are Vyuha Vasudeva, who is Kshirabdhinata, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. And each of these vyuhas demonstrate some of these 6 principal gunas. The Kshirabdhinada, Vyuha Vasudeva, displays all the 6 gunas of Paravasudeva: Jnana, Bala, Aishwarya, Virya, Shakti, Tejas. Sankarshana, the Kshirabdhinata, Vyuha Vasudeva, is the very basis for all the other 3 vyuhas, other 3 emanations: Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Chaturmurtis, Chaturbahus, Chaturvyuhas, Chaturgatihi, Chaturatma, Chaturbhavas, Chaturveda, Videkapad. Bhishmacharya talks about the wondrous 4, and in that process he celebrates Chaturvyuha, Chaturatma, Chaturmurtihi, glorifying the 4 emanations, the 4 vyuha forms. Sankarshana demonstrates 2 principal gunas out of the 6, Jnana and Bala. And Sankarshana, the vyuha form, is responsible for the cosmic function of dissolution. And the 2 principal gunas needed for carrying out the principle of dissolution is Jnana, omniscience, and Bala, the strength and support, to support during Laya, to support the latent, the unmanifested form of creation. And the Jnana, to keep the karma of every individual entity intact, so that when creation happens, when Srishti happens, everything starts off from where it stopped. Pradyumna displays 2 important attributes, the gunas of Aishwarya and Virya. The cosmic function of Pradyumna Vyuharupa is Srishti. Aishwarya and Virya. Aishwarya is the ability, the power to control and own. And Virya is to remain changeless. In the process of creation, Bhagavan remains changeless. Even though he is intimately connected with his creation, he remains blemishless. Akilaheya pratyanika kalyanekatana svetara vastu samasta vilakshana ananta jnananandaika rupa. In spite of being the Antaryami, in spite of being intimately associated with the creation, he creates, he permeates and pervades, but he remains blemishless all throughout. That is because of his Kalyana Guna of Virya. Aishwarya, Virya. Shakti, Tejas, the other pair of his principal gunas, are displayed by the 4th Vyuha form, Aniruddha. The cosmic function of Aniruddha Vyuha is sustenance, which requires the gunas of Shakti to energize, to empower every entity to do its job, and Tejas to carry out protection without depending on any other entity. That is the characteristic of Tejas. Jnanam, Balam, Vipulavishana, Virya Shakti Tejamscha, Triyuga Bhuyam, Upagatani, Purnani Shatcha Parigrihya Bhavams Chaturdha. Bhaktam Janam Tvam Anujagrahithanuraga. Bhaktam Janam Tvam Anujagrahithanuraga. Anuraga, with your Anuraga, is Bhagavan's boundless love for us. Hey Bhagavan, Kuresha says, your Vyuhavataras are for the purpose of enabling all the Jivatmas in samsara to contemplate on your various forms, to contemplate, to experience you in their different states. Every state that the Jivatma goes through requires different kind of experience, a different kind of a form. Hey Bhagavan, you divide yourself. You group your gunas into 3 different pairs, and then you assume 4 vyuha forms for the sake of showering your grace, showering your endless love on all your bhaktas. Bhaktam janam tvam anujagrahita anuragat. Thus Kuresha, he glorifies Vibhava Avataras and sets the stage now to move on, to start celebrating the glories of various avatars. As I said, this work of Atimānuṣa stavam, which has 61 shlokas, bulk of which are devoted to Ramavatara and Krishnavatara. We have now relished the introductory part of Atimānuṣa stavam, where Kuresha celebrates Archamurti of Bhagavan and his Vyuha and sets the stage for us to continue the journey of relishing the various Vibhava Avataras. In the coming sessions, we will continue this journey of relishing Bhagavan's Atimānuṣa Shila, Atimānuṣa Vritta, Atimānuṣa Vesha, Atimānuṣa Shila Vritta Veshaihi, Ativrittamana Vikrama Pratapaihi, Atilankita Sarvaloka Samyam Varaye, Vaishnava Vaibhava Avataram. Prostrations to the illustrious Kuresha. Srimate Ramanujaya Namaha.